Welcome everyone to Hit Your Numbers. This is a special bonus mini episode where I am going to be talking to James about a cold calling masterclass he's got coming up in August. How are you doing, James?
I'm doing really well. I'm fired up for the masterclass. I'm looking forward to the session.
That's exciting. So let's start by setting the stage. Why are we here and what's the big news about this cold calling masterclass you're hosting?
Yeah, so most organizations, Matt, because we talk about this all the time, they have a massive pipeline problem. Now, the reality is most of that problem is caused by poor pipeline conversion. Their major problem actually is converting opportunities. Their win rate's so low, so they need to build more pipeline. But that's probably a completely different conversation for us. Today, let's talk about the building of pipeline part. So I've been doing this for 15 years now. And in that time, I've been a rep and built a couple of sales organizations. And I found in the two teams that I built, 65-70% of pipeline was being produced by cold calling, mainly because we can handle objections or overcome challenges. We can get into the weeds a little bit more by having a conversation. That's obviously a lot harder doing that via traditional text-based communication like email and LinkedIn. And what I found was when I transitioned from the two roles where I was building teams to now what we do now, most organizations just aren't nailing what I call the basics, and it's costing them meetings, costing them pipeline, and ultimately costing them revenue. So, in this session, we're going to be going really deep and really wide into the basics, but then also layering in some advanced stuff so that we can help people with lots of different experiences and challenges in terms of cold calling and pipeline generation.
Okay, amazing. I think you've answered that a little bit just now, but what are the main skills that you're helping reps to unlock in this masterclass?
Specifically, I'm going to be walking through the exact script, the framework, the language, the words that my last team used to go from 6 meetings a month to 60 meetings a month. And we did this in the first 30 to 45 days of me joining the organization. There was lots at play there. So I'm going to break down all of those moving parts live on the session. We're also going to help people walk away with objection handling best practices. But also, this is something that we just overlook all of the time in sales, is how do you actually spot the areas where things aren't working by using data, so it removes all of the emotion from the conversation, so you actually know what you need to fix, and then you can work on fixing it and then use data to inform and to help you understand, like, are you actually moving the needle or making progress there? So yeah, taking through the exact frameworks and scripts that my last team used, and I used when I was a rep. I'm kind of breaking that down at every key area, and then objection handling, and then some best practice when it comes to closing skill gaps.
Okay, fantastic. And so what are the most common mistakes you're seeing reps make right now when they pick up the phone?
I think one of the things I see on LinkedIn is that people talk about tone is everything. The problem is most people telling you that have never been a buyer. So Matt, like being a marketing leader, I'm sure you'll agree with this, but when I was a VP of sales, if you were to cold call me, or like even if you sent me a personalized email, like the personalization part's nice, but don't really care about that. I care that you can solve my problem and have evidence of solving it, right? And the same with a cold call. Like if you're going to cold call me, tone is obviously important. I'm not saying it's not, but if the words that are coming out of your mouth aren't relevant, I don't care how well you say them. I'm busy, right? You're busy. Like buyers are busy, and it literally is that simple. So I can just tell you from being a buyer myself, a lot of that stuff where they're like, the only thing that matters is tone. It's crap. Your crapped pitch does not matter if the tone, let's say you deliver a crap pitch, right? The words are crap, but it sounds amazing. I'm going to get rid of you. If you sound a little bit off, but you can solve my problem, I don't care about being honest, like care about you. I care about me and solving my problem. So I'm going to entertain a conversation. All right. So there's that one thing is I think there's this like myth that you have to sound amazing. It doesn't really matter what you say. So just go and make even more cold calls. If you actually improved what you said and who you said them to, you'd probably actually improve conversions and have to make less calls, and you could spend more time on prospecting emails or sending videos or managing your pipeline or I don't know, training or whatever. I think that's number one, Matt. The second thing is like a really big focus is reps are going through like a power hour. So they'll block like 9 till 10 and 2 till 3, just cold calls. I'm walking around the sales floor, either when I was leading teams or now when I'm, training and enabling orgs. I'm walking around and you got reps like slumped in their chair, scrolling the news feed in between cold calls. And I'm like, dude, like that's not going to help you book a meeting right now. Like get your prep done, get all the heavy lifting done before the session. And in those 60 minutes, just absolutely blitz the phones apart, right? And if nobody answers, you can easily do 40, 50 dials. The goal is for people to answer, right, and have great conversations. So just focus on chasing those conversations. And if for whatever reason nobody's picking up, and it happens from time to time, just make sure you're absolutely blitzing the phone for those 60 minutes so that you make the most of the time prospecting and you can move on to a next task. Yeah. So really, really biggie. The third is that if you think about what we're doing in sales, especially in B2B sales, is we are selling people on a different way of doing it. Okay. In most cases, organizations are getting the job done without you. Maybe not to the best of their ability. Maybe they're only doing a small percentage of it, but they are getting the job done. So if we want to take them on a journey to go and do something a little bit differently with us, we have to inspire them. So when I'm listening to calls, we're not really inspiring anybody in our pitch or building any confidence in our ability to solve those problems, which is probably why prospects say, hey, can you send me an email? And if I'm interested, I'll get back to you. And they're hoping that they can figure things out elsewhere because you're not talking the language that they want to be talking. So, number 3 is if we want to get somebody to take an action and do something differently, we're going to have to inspire them. And that comes down to really good storytelling, which again, I'm going to break down in detail in this masterclass on what a story actually looks like. What are the 4 or 5 key components of a story with an example so you can actually see what that looks like so that you can tweak it for your own business and implement it immediately after the session. And then I feel like I'm ranting here and rumbling on, but I'm going to give you the 4th and final one, Matt, and it's people get very defensive when it comes to objections. We know they're going to come at some point, be it right at the beginning, right at the end, or somewhere in the middle. Okay, so my biggest advice to you is just embrace them. Expect they're going to come. And the ways that you can deal with them is 1, just get curious. If in doubt, ask a question. It's one of my favorite bits of advice I came across years ago. If you don't know why something's happening, ask a question, and it gives you a couple of seconds or a couple of minutes to kind of get yourself into position. Because when you get an objection, right, if you're watching this video, if you're listening, you won't be able to see what I'm doing, but when you get an objection, it's like being punched in the face. Right, like you're at, like, I don't know, you're at a bar or something, you're not expecting it, right? It hits you. Sometimes you just need a minute to like gather yourself, right? And that's why, like, if in doubt, ask a question, give yourself a couple of seconds or a couple of moments to collect yourself, and then go, right, my second thing is practice. What did I practice this morning when it comes to that objection or that reason for not wanting to take a meeting? Now I've bought myself a couple of seconds, I can go into that talk track that I know works, not 100% of the time, but I've practiced it. I'm ready to roll, and I can deliver it. And I can go back to my closing talk track to ask for the meeting. So those would be kind of my 3 or 4, I guess, mistakes that I'm seeing sellers run into typically on a cold call.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's really about piquing someone's interest. If they're going to pick up the phone, you want to pique their interest, regardless of your tone. You want to be motivated at your desk as well. So that's a common mistake. Like you said, people are slumped in their chair, they're scrolling feeds, they're looking at the news, social media, they're getting out of that rhythm. And as small as it might be, those kind of practices are really going to help you day to day. Especially if you're running like a power hour, you need to kind of keep in the zone, for a lack of a better term, right?
Yeah,
Um,
100%.
and you've also got, you mentioned inspiration and sort of inspiring the customer. I think there's 2 sides to this as well. So you've got to inspire the customer, which is you've got to make them realize that you understand their problem. But what I was going to say as well is this session isn't just for SDRs and AEs, right? This is also for sales leaders. And I think there's a lot to be said about inspiring your team. Is that going to be covered in this masterclass?
There'll be bits that are transferable. There's a lot in sales that are important, right? Like if I'm teaching an SDR to be curious, a lot of the time they need to be more present in the conversation and like be really listening into the conversation. Now, a sales leader can apply that to their role. If a rep is saying something in a one-on-one, they need to be curious as to what they're saying, not just like attack them with their point of view. But to be genuinely curious, they have to be really present. Unfortunately, what happens, Matt, and again, this hurts SDRs and AEs when they're on the phone building pipe, is they're not actually present in the conversation. They're just thinking, when this person stops, I'm going to start, and this is what I'm going to say, and I've got this stored back here. If you just took a minute and got a pen and paper, which, by the way, like so many people are against these days because they've got conversation intelligence tools that are recording their calls for them, and it then puts all of the data into CRM. Well, what's happening is nobody's making time to go and read those notes or anything like that, so it's actually pointless. I'm not saying write word for word because I want to be present, but when we're having a conversation, Matt, I do this all the time. Actually, if any of you guys go and listen to any of the podcasts, you'll see that I do this a lot. Like when somebody's talking, I don't want to interrupt them. So what I just do is I just write like little kind of lines, and I just like underline and circle stuff. Look at my notepad; they're all the same all the way through. And then when the person's finished, I'm like, "Hey, Matt, I didn't want to interrupt you. You said something really interesting a minute ago, but I didn't want to kill your flow. You mentioned something about one, two, three. Can we just go back into that a second? Can you tell me a little bit more about that?" Right. And it's just a powerful communication tool. So, a lot of the things that we talk about when it comes to cold calling is just effective communication. And that can be applied to most areas of the sales organization or the organization in general.
100%. And so this is really for SDRs and AEs, but as kind of mentioned as well, sales leaders are going to get a lot from this, whether it's just understanding what their team should be doing. So if you've got a growing sales team and you need to be monitoring them more, this session is going to give you some really golden tips to take away, right? It's going to give you things to monitor. It's going to allow you to understand what you need to be looking for. All right, I was going to ask you who needs to be at this masterclass, but I feel like we've already addressed this. Final question then. So when is it happening and where can people access it and how can they sign up?
Yeah, so this one's going to be happening on the 14th of August, 2025 at 3 p.m. UK British Standard Time. It will be recorded. However, come to the session live. Between now and then, grab a pen and paper and write down your biggest challenges when it comes to pipeline generation, specifically on the phone, and come and attend live. So that one, what you see on screen, you can ask direct questions in real time. But two, like I'm going to hold time at the end or throughout to answer your specific question. So I'm going to be going deep and wide on strong execution when it comes to cold calling. But you might have a specific challenge when it comes to getting through gatekeepers or maybe leaving voicemails. And I can give you some of my talk tracks and examples that you can use there to overcome some of those challenges. So one, make sure you turn up live, and there's going to be a link in the description to go and get a seat and register, or DM me or Matt on LinkedIn, or head over to the website, therevenueenabler.com, and there'll be like 1,000 banners to grab your attention so that you can register. But the other reason why I want you to turn up live is I'm going to give you access to some of the AI tools that I've been building, like Cold Call Script Builder, where it's taken my script. I've trained it on like hours and hours and hours of transcripts of when I've been delivering training to teams on what good looks like. I've fed that in there. It's going to ask you a couple of questions in the AI, and then it's going to build your version of my script. And then I'm also going to give you access to my cold call coach, where I've loaded in the scorecard that I used to coach my teams on when I built sales organizations. And all you have to do is start the AI, drop the transcript of your cold call in there, and within 60 seconds, it's going to score that call and then give you coaching moments or coaching feedback. So areas that you need to improve. Also, areas that you did really well to reinforce what you're doing well. But then also, it's going to build you a coaching plan so that you can break it down day by day, week by week, and start actually increasing sales performance. So you have to attend live though to get those, because I'll be dropping links into the chat and those won't be visible in the recording. So make sure you block that time now so that when it comes around to it, you can't not turn up live.
Absolutely. We will not be sharing those links anywhere else other than on the masterclass. So I just want to tell everyone why I think they should be joining. So recently we recorded a podcast episode looking at James's success. I really wanted to find out what's going on in James's sales history, because we all hear him talking about sales training and coaching and helping reps. What I think is really important is for those reps and sales leaders to understand where James is coming from. So we did a bit of a deep dive, and this episode's coming out on the 1st of August. It's called We Banned Demos and Then Closed More Deals. So if you want to hear why James banned demos, go and have a listen to it. But more importantly, we really dug into win rates that increased to 57%, 10xing the amount of meetings that you're booking, reducing the time to close by 64%. We really dug into all of those things and how we made them happen. So this isn't just a masterclass by anyone. It's a masterclass by someone who's been in your shoes. They've been an SDR, they've been an AE, they've been a sales leader twice, and now a founder. And I know James is still picking up the phone because we talk about it every week. So he's still making those sales today. So my advice to you is to go to the revenueenabler.com/masterclass, check out the 3 that we've got coming up already. This one's all about cold calling, but there are 2 more happening in September and October. James, any final thoughts?
I just kind of, I guess, did my thing, by the way. I took my notes there while you're talking, so I didn't interrupt you, and I can come back to them. So I just want to add, yes, I've been in your shoes, guys, and I've made all of the mistakes. I've got all of the scars. I've been burnt. The mistakes aren't anywhere near as big as an SDR versus when you're a VP of sales. I've made decisions that have probably cost the business, a significant amount of money, and learned from it and figured out a better way of doing it, and then documented it. And I'm part of that is obviously what we're going to be covering in the session. And yeah, the other thing I would say is around like that podcast episode, go check it out, banning demos. Like I did that at both my orgs. I've been doing it with a lot of my customers recently. And one of them recently published that win rates are up 44%. And they've banned demos on the first conversation. Qualification, discovery is just getting stronger because they got dedicated time to run it. Then they got dedicated time for demos, and then the rest of the sales process. So definitely go and check that out. A lot of people talk about you should show the product on the first call, and I just unfortunately see so many people get it wrong. So I ban it. You can only run discovery. It forces you to go to deep and wide. So that when you do your demo is more impactful because you know exactly what to show them, what not to show them, and terrify them and scare them and make and overwhelm them. So definitely go check out that episode. The only thing I guess I'll leave you with, or leave the listeners with, is I'm also going to be sharing like a really killer talk track on how to actually close the call for a meeting. So one of the things that I really struggled with when I was a rep a long time ago was I would be asked, send me an email. Can you send me an email? I always struggled to really overcome it. I'd be like, hey, Matt, no worries. What do you want in the email? And I just struggled. So one of the things that one of my managers taught me was to use it in the closing talk track. So I call it like a double next step close. And it goes a little bit like this. So I might say, hey, Matt, like, I really appreciate your time. I know I originally asked for 30 seconds, so thanks for giving me more of your time. I really think we might better help you guys out, but don't want to make any assumptions here. So I'd love to suggest 2 next steps. The first is I'm going to send you over an email after this call outlining some of the capabilities that we spoke about, and actually share that case study from Sarah, the VP of sales over at ABC company, just to give you a little bit more context into how we did that. But I'd also really love to show you how we solve the problem because it's a really visual solution. So I'm actually looking at my calendar right now, Matt. How's 10 a.m. tomorrow or 3 p.m. Thursday? Do either of those times work for you? And I go dead quiet. And it just works. And what I don't get is, hey, can you send me an email? Because I'm like, dude, I literally just said I'm going to send you an email. So I can't remember what he called it. He had some like Jedi kind of mind trick kind of stuff name for it. But you're basically just like in rugby, like you're handing people off before they've even got close. So you're just preventing it from coming up because you're like, hey, I'm going to do this and be helpful. But I also really want to show you what we're doing here. Are you available? So I'm going to be taking you through word for word that exact talk track and how it works inside of the overall script. So make sure you turn up live.
Absolutely. And I don't think we mentioned it. This is a free session, right?
Completely free.
It's completely free. So this is a complete value add for you. So if you want to get better at cold calling, there's no barrier to entry here. You can just register online. I'll say it again. It's the revenueenabler.com/masterclass, or you just go to the revenueenabler.com and it'll be a banner on the homepage, or you can just DM James on LinkedIn. He'll give you the info directly. All right. Thank you so much, James. And until next time.
All right. See you next week. Cheers, Matt.